Why are we not charging this guy with false imprisonment? Why are we not charging this guy with kidnapping? Why are we not charging him with aggravated battery? Those are all second-degree felonies, each of which carries a 15-year prison sentence, each of which would have a much longer statute of limitations period for the filing.
We have had a lot of reaction to the latest Diddy news, from the highly disturbing video of him purportedly beating his ex-girlfriend to his apology. We now ask former Judge Elizabeth Scherer, who presided over the Parkland school shooting case, her take on these developments. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law&Crime. I'm Jesse Weber. Hey everybody, this is a Law&Crime legal alert. Google Incognito tracked users' browsing data without their knowledge. Well, Mass Tort Alliance, one of our legal sponsors, is helping users file for compensation due to Google users' privacy issues surrounding Google Incognito. So if you've used Google Incognito anytime since 2016, you can start your claim in less than 10 questions at incognitoclaims.com/sidebar. Well, with all of the Sean Diddy Combs developments, it can be kind of tough to make sense of it all. Well, that's why we're getting some incredible perspective from some amazing experts and guests. And of course, there is a lot going on right now, because over the weekend, Combs responded to the incredibly alarming and sickening video obtained by CNN of him allegedly beating his ex-girlfriend, Cassandra Ventura, back in 2016. The video seemingly showing him kicking, pushing, dragging her, throwing a vase in her direction, all at the Intercontinental Hotel in an elevator bank out in L.A. This is all while he was wearing a towel, by the way. That's what the video seems to show. It is a brazen attack right in the open. And from a legal perspective, it also matches up to Ventura's description as she laid it out in her civil complaint that she filed against Sean Combs. She had sued him for sexual abuse and sex trafficking back in November 2023. She settled the case, but 2 days after this video was published and shocked the entire world, Diddy decided to respond on Instagram.
It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life, but sometimes you got to do that. I was up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, and go into rehab. Had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
And we have been trying to make sense of why he put this out, the issues surrounding this response, and what is next. Well, as I said, we have great perspective. And right now, I have terrific perspective, because I'm bringing on former Judge Elizabeth Scherer, now in private practice with Conrad and Scherer. Thank you so much for coming on, Judge. Great to have you. Let's first start, since I haven't spoken to you, your reaction to the 2016 video obtained and published by CNN. Let's start there.
It's brutal. I'm watching that thinking, the first thing that comes to my mind is this poor girl. And the second thing that comes to my mind is, what an idiot. This is 2024, and I understand that was 2016, but there are cameras everywhere, especially in a hotel. It's shocking. It's one of the most shocking videos I've ever seen. I can't say it's the most, unfortunately, but it's pretty bad. It ranks up there with some other really bad ones that I've seen in my experience.
But here's the thing. He allegedly purchased the footage for $50,000 from the Intercontinental Hotel. That's what Cassandra Ventura said. So for me, when I've read all the lawsuits and I've heard the allegations, and the theme is he's so powerful. He can get away with whatever he wants to get away with. He'll have people be the fall guys for him. If I take that as true, it's almost not surprising that he's allegedly running down the hallway in his towel and beating her in an open hotel, right?
Yeah, I find it, I get what you're saying, and if that's what goes on in California, maybe, but oh gosh, I just find it so hard to stomach the idea that you can buy evidence because of who you are, how much money you have. And I'm sure that I'm being too, not closed-minded, but I'm being too idealistic, thinking that no, people wouldn't possibly do that. But I guess that stuff goes on in California, and it's disgusting.
Well, it allegedly happens everywhere. And it's about the wealth and power. That's what some of the themes that we've seen so far in other cases. You know, one of the interesting things about it, and unfortunately, the reason this has changed the game is there are allegations put out in complaints, and there's allegations put out in cases all the time. But it's another thing to see it. And that visual will forever be in people's minds. And it makes me wonder, seems why he wanted to settle that case as soon as possible, because during the, right?
He's kicking her like a dog on the, not that you should kick a dog, but he's kicking her like some kind of wild animal who's, the only time you should ever act like that is if perhaps you're being attacked. I mean, she's just laying there. You can tell, trying to get away from him, and he's just trying to prevent her from leaving, kicking her, hitting her, and a lot of times when you watch surveillance videos like these, they are very powerful, but you have to imagine you're only getting a certain perspective. Usually it's a camera that's way up in the corner. So you're not getting the emotion. You're not getting the talking. You're not getting the sweating, the heart beating, if you were standing right there, you'd probably hear her moaning or crying or begging for her life while he's screaming at her and insulting her. And you could probably hear smacking when he's hitting her. So yes, I think this evidence is incredible. It's absolutely incredible. But you sometimes have to step back and say, we're just watching it with no sound, and it sort of happens very quickly. And without that other component to it, without maybe her to explain exactly what was going on a play-by-play, we're really not even getting exactly how bad it is.
From a legal point of view, I want you to clear something up for us. Look,
Sure.
The LA County District Attorney's Office said we can't prosecute this case because it happened in 2016. There's a statute of limitations, I believe, for felony assault. It's 3 years. I even kind of did a brief research about whether or not he could be charged for allegedly tampering with evidence or something like that. I think it does also fall into the statute of limitations. You're former judge, attorney. It's important to have the statute of limitations, but you can also understand why it would be frustrating for people to see this and say, how is he not being brought up on criminal charges in California for this?
Well, first of all, if this woman tried to press charges and they declined the case and said there wasn't enough evidence, and it in fact turns out that it's because he purchased the evidence or he tampered with evidence, there will be an exception to the statute of limitations. That's number one. Number two, why are we not charging this guy with false imprisonment? Why are we not charging this guy with kidnapping? Why are we not charging him with aggravated battery? Those are all second-degree felonies, each of which carries a 15-year prison sentence, each of which would have a much longer statute of limitations period for the filing. I mean, he's hitting her with a vase. That's a deadly weapon. He's holding her down. He's keeping her from leaving that particular hotel. You can tell she's trying to get out. She has her bag. She's trying to get on the elevator, and he's dragging her back. That's kidnapping. Could be argued armed kidnapping because he's throwing deadly weapons at her. A shoe, a vase can all be considered a weapon.
The fact that the LA County District Attorney's Office said they didn't receive a report from law enforcement about this, what does that mean? What does that tell you?
It tells me that she didn't go to the police.
Right.
Maybe she was embarrassed. And I mean, that happens. It's sort of the nature of domestic violence. People
to give you context, in her lawsuit, she put off the allegation she couldn't go to law enforcement. It was just too much. She was in fear.
Yeah, and that's that happens. Unfortunately, that happens so much. Even when victims of domestic violence initially report an incident to law enforcement, I would say more than 50% at a later point change their mind and don't want to pursue the prosecution. And without a witness, without the victim's testimony, it's very hard to prove this type of domestic violence situation. In this case, you wouldn't need a victim because you'd have a video.
Correct. Right. I've said this before. It's a misnomer that you need someone to press charges in order for there to be charges. I said the same thing during the Will Smith, Chris Rock incident. You didn't need Chris Rock to report it to the police. We all saw it. You want probable cause. You have it on tape. But here's the thing.
It's a reasonable person. What would be in the mind of a reasonable person? In fact, I've prosecuted cases where the victim was against me. The victim was testifying for the defense. and I still got a conviction. It was a situation where a man set his wife on fire, and she said that it was an accident, that he accidentally lit her on fire. But the reasonable person and the juror can see that you don't accidentally set yourself on fire. Thank God. Because that guy was, domestic violence cases are sometimes the worst of the worst. Terrible.
And let me ask you this. So putting the state charges for the side, we know that there is an ongoing federal investigation. Diddy's houses have been raided. It's possibly pursuant to an ongoing sex trafficking investigation. Do you think that that video, it could constitute federal crimes, federal charges, and what would that look like?
I don't know. It could. There is a kidnapping, federal crime of kidnapping. I mean, but Jesse, come on, we know the feds, they don't file anything unless it's a slam dunk. USA is going to win 99% of the time. That's why so many federal cases don't get ever filed or sent to a jury. The assistant U.S. attorneys, they need permission from Washington on every single case they file. The odds, they want to make sure the odds are stacked against the defendant so that they can maintain their 99% conviction rate. So although this case on video, you would think would be a 99% conviction rate if they could come up with some type of crime that would get over the hurdle of the statute of limitations, but they're the feds. They can do what they want.
I think it could be a piece of evidence used in a sex trafficking case. If you're going to say that you're using force or coercion to force somebody into commercial sex acts, and the allegation was, I mean, it's a very graphic lawsuit that she basically said she was forced into sexual slavery and was given things and value and opportunities. I think this could be evidence of that. Here's my question to you.
Sure.
Whatever charges he's brought up, assuming they're felonies.
Okay.
If you were presiding over this case and you had to sentence him and there was a range of sentence, how would you sentence Diddy to crimes pursuant to this video?
Depends. Usually a guy his age doesn't just wake up one morning and start beating on a woman. So I don't know if he has priors. I think we would have heard about that if he did. But in front of me for that type of unprovoked attack, I would at least give him 15 years in prison. If he's in Florida, 100%. And I don't care if he's P. Diddy.
Well, life doesn't happen bi-weekly, so why should payday? The money you earn can be in your hands today with the sponsor of this video, Earnin. Earnin is an app that gives you access to your pay as you work, up to $100 per day or up to $750 per pay period. All you got to do is just download the Earnin app and you verify your paycheck. Then you access up to $100 a day as you work and leave an optional tip. And any money you access plus tips are automatically repaid from your next paycheck. And think about how much that money could help. Date night, rent, maybe a special present, life. Sometimes things happen. You need some cash. Well, you can make Earnin a part of your financial routine and join Earnin's over 3.5 million customers who say things like, when I think about Earnin, I think about financial stability and security. It gives me a lot of peace of mind. Well, you can download Earnin today, spelled EARNIN in the Google Play or Apple App Store. When you download the Earnin app, type in Law&Crime under podcast when you sign up. That's Law&Crime under podcast. Earnin is a financial technology company, not a bank, subject to your available earnings, daily max, pay period max, and location. See earnin.com/TOS for details. Bank products are issued by Evolve Bank and Trust member FDIC. Would you revoke his bond?
If he was out on you, I don't think that the charge would fit a punishable. In Florida, you have to have a charge that's punishable by a maximum of life in prison to be held without bond. Mm-hmm. Any other offense is bondable. Mm-hmm. However, given his means and his resources, I would certainly set a very high bond, like in the millions, and I would have a lot of requirements attached to that bond. Because I saw that apology, Jesse, and I don't believe a word of it.
Can we talk about that? Can we talk about that? So you posted 2 days after. Again, I thought it was very interesting that it was posted after the LA County District Attorney's Office said they would not prosecute. What was your take on Diddy's response?
It's a textbook self-serving apology. And I actually, that's the first thing that came to my mind. All he says is, and I'm going to just refer to my notes, is I was effed up. I hit rock bottom. I tried to get help. I'm all about me. You don't hear anything about this woman. You don't hear anything about, I am so sorry for what I did to this woman. I am so sorry if she is having, residual effects, if she's having nightmares. I can't imagine if somebody had done this to a woman I care about, my mother, my sister. The way that I treated you is unspeakable. It's inhuman, and I am sorry. And I hope there is some way that you will be able to go and live a productive and healthy life. And I would, be willing to do anything to make that happen. That's an apology. An apology is not, oh, I was messed up and I did this and I did that. It's all about me. You don't hear him say anything about the victim the entire time. For example,
let me ask you about that,
go ahead.
because CNN has reported that it is possible that the reason he didn't mention her is because their settlement agreement from that lawsuit prohibits them from speaking about each other. This is what sources have told one of their reporters at CNN. If that is true, I mean, do you think that she would have gone after him for apologizing to her? I don't think so, right?
I mean, you never know, but here's the thing. If you're sorry, you're sorry.
Yeah.
And if you really want to make amends, you want to make amends. He didn't even say, I'm sorry I did this, or he didn't even say who he was sorry to. Is he apologizing to the public? I mean, I get it. Maybe his lawyer told him not a good idea, but his lawyer should have also told him to issue this sort of half-ass self-serving apology where he only talks about poor me this, poor me that. I don't think that helped him at all. I think that if I'm the victim, that's going to make me even more upset about the situation, because to me, it shows he has absolutely no insight into what he did.
Do you think he was advised to put this out? Because there's an ongoing federal case. He just admitted it was him in the video. I can't imagine he was advised to respond this.
He looked like he was high. He was very slow and kind of like, the eyes are droopy. And to me, he looked like he was either extremely tired, hadn't slept, or he was on something. And if he was going to do a press release, I'm thinking he would have, an organized press release per the advice of counsel, per the advice of a publicist. I'm thinking he's going to be wearing a suit and tie. He's going to be dressed nice. The lighting's going to be good. And he's going to actually make sense of what he's saying, as opposed to just babbling away on some, cell phone camera it wasn't dark, but it wasn't, well lit. And I would think one would put more thought into the appearance if that was an orchestrated apology. I think he went rogue.
Do you think, though, that put him in even more legal jeopardy? I mentioned the fact that he admitted it, but remember, when all these allegations came out, he didn't just say, I'll wait for my day in court. I look forward to clear my name, or no comment at this time. He flat out denied that all these allegations against him, and now is seemingly saying, no, I admit to one of these allegations. So not only does it hurt his credibility on a PR point of view, but wouldn't it hurt his credibility at a future trial?
Well, certainly if he takes the stand, because he can be confronted with all of that, those inconsistencies. But of course, I can't see that happening. I mean, can you? Him taking the stand in a criminal case?
Well, what about
stranger things have happened.
He could be called to the stand in the civil cases, and it makes me wonder if he wants to settle them after all this.
True. I mean, again, I don't think that was a very good attempt at reaching an agreeable settlement, because I think, again, what he did, that was completely self-serving. I don't think it was heartfelt. I don't think he mentioned any of the things that one would mention. If you wanted to apologize to your wife or your family member or your loved one, and you were really sorry for something that you did, even if it's not some horrific act like this, you would say, I feel terrible. I am so sorry. I can't believe I hurt you. I am horrified by my actions, and I want to make this right. And I want you to know that I don't feel that way about you. You're a wonderful person. You would try to really express to the person that you do feel bad, and that and why.
Right. And let me end on this point, because it was interesting the way you talked about a potential sentencing. Would you bring this apology up in your sentencing? Because we know that judges sometimes will provide some context and explanation to the defendant before handing down a sentence. Would you bring up this apology video if you had the opportunity?
Oh, yes. I would tell him that I have received your apology video. I've reviewed it, and I would tell him exactly what I just told you all. I find that it's self-serving. I find that because I used to have people all the time that would get a pre-sentence investigation report where they would issue a statement before sentencing. And very often the apology goes like this. And a lot of times I would say to the person, well, what exactly are you sorry for? Who are you apologizing to? You're apologizing to me. You didn't do anything to me. This is my job. Who are you sorry? Who are you apologizing to? And what are you sorry for? I want to know specifically. And most of the time, people like that don't have insight and they're not really sorry, they'll try to answer you, but they can't because they're not sorry. So they don't know what to say when you put them on the spot.
Wow. Judge Elizabeth Scherer, thank you so much for coming on.
Harsh,
I appreciate your perspective. And I'll tell you, it's very interesting because, as I mentioned, I'm getting perspective from a lot of different people on this. And there's a lot to make of it. And we are very curious to see what will happen next. But, Judge, thank you so much for coming on. Always appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
All right, everybody, that's all we have for you right now here on Sidebar. Thank you so much for joining us. As always, please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Jesse Weber. I'll speak to you next time.